Is someone talking?
Hello.
Hello, good evening. My name is Catherine from SEB Housing. Thanks for joining us tonight. This is the information session for the 6 affordable homeownership units, the townhomes at Johnson Woods and Reading. So the purpose of this session is to give a little bit of background information on the homes. I'm going to cover the lottery application, the eligibility and lottery processes, and what to expect after the lottery is run. So if you have any questions during the session, you're encouraged to either type them into the chat through Zoom. I'll also be asking throughout the presentation if anyone has any questions. You can go ahead and unmute yourself at that time to ask the question. When you came into the meeting, you were muted just to make sure that we try to minimize any unnecessary background noise. So this session is being recorded, and that is because anyone who wasn't able to join in tonight can view the recording afterwards if they're interested in this opportunity. And just one moment here. No, so we have a question here. Is this for Needham too? It says it was online. No, our office is located in Needham, but the property is in Reading. I don't think we have any Needham properties coming up anytime soon, but we do have different lotteries throughout the state. So just for some background information on who we are first, SEB Housing. So we're an off-site affordable housing consulting group. We've been hired by the developer to market these homes, conduct this information session, collect and review applications, and to eventually run the lottery. So we're not part of the sales team. We haven't seen the homes in person. But during the initial phases, we will be your main point of contact rather than the developer or the sales team. But then further on along in the process, you would have more direct contact with the owner if you're invited to move forward after the lottery towards purchasing one of these homes. So there's two broad steps in the process. The first is to apply for the affordable housing lottery and to be found eligible for the affordable housing program. So during that point, you'll be in touch with us at SEB Housing, and we can answer any questions you have on the application process, the affordable housing program. We'll do a preliminary review of your lottery application, and if you're eligible, based on the information that you reported to us, you'll be entered into the lottery and given a position on the waiting list once the lottery is run. And then the second broad step in the process will involve all of the processes going along with actually reserving one of the homes and buying the properties. So at that point, your opportunity to be able to do that, to move forward in the process, will depend on your wait list placement following the lottery. And, you know, if there's 6 townhomes, if you're number 7 on the waiting list, then someone would need to drop off of the waiting list ahead of you for you to be able to move forward in the process, which is likely. You know, we don't usually have, 6 homes or 6 apartments if it's a rental opportunity, for example, and those first 6 people on the waiting list move forward. There usually is a little bit of movement there, so keep that in mind. So if you haven't already done so, you can view a listing on our website with some information, including an information packet for Johnson Woods. If you go to sebhousing.com and go to I want to buy, since this is an ownership opportunity, you'll see a link for Johnson Woods, and that will take you to a page specific to this property. There'll be a downloadable version of the application, a copy of the deed rider, which will be filed along with the deed once the homes are bought, and the information packet. The information packet itself includes a lot of the information I'm going to be reviewing tonight. I'm not going to cover everything in the packet just because of time, and because if you're interested in the opportunity, you'll be taking a look at that anyway. But have a look at that if you're interested in this opportunity, even if you do attend this session. So if you choose to apply and you want to move forward in purchasing one of the affordable townhomes at Johnson Woods, you'll first need to complete that lottery application. And you can submit it to us in one of several ways. So you could email or scan it to us. That's usually how we get these applications from applicants. They come in through info@sdbhousing.com, and we can screen your application that way. We also have a fax number that's on the first page of the application. If you're in the Needham area, you can drop it off in the drop box at our office at 257 Hillside Ave, or you can send it in the mail. Whatever one of those options works best for you. We just encourage you to get your lottery application in early. It's fairly brief. There's no supporting income documentation that's needed at this stage, so you don't need to, attach pay stubs or anything like that. You're just self-reporting what your income and assets and all of the household composition, all of that information. You're putting that on your application. And if we have any questions or if you've left anything blank, we'll ask you about those. It will be later on in the process that you would need to supply your income information and all of that. So when you're submitting your lottery application, the only other thing that needs to come in with it is a mortgage pre-approval from the bank. There'll be more information that you need later on in the process from the bank, but that mortgage pre-approval and the lottery application are what you need at the time of your application. Applications are due October 4th, and so a little bit less than a month from today. And they need to be delivered or postmarked by that deadline to be considered. Just a question here. To be clear, the preliminary eligibility application requires you have a mortgage group. Right, correct. Yep, sorry, that came in before I mentioned it. Yep, so no income information, asset information, nothing like that yet, but just the mortgage pre-approval and the lottery app. Johnson Woods has I put it on here. Yep, they have a website. Not all of the information in there is going to be applicable to the affordable units, but take a look at it if you want to see kind of the architecture of the community and some information about amenities and all of that. You can take a look there. It's johnsonwoods.net. And so these homes are going to be sold at an affordable price, and they're only going to be made available to households with incomes at or below 80% of the area median income. So Johnson Woods, it's a community that has several different types of homes, but all of the affordable homes are going to be townhomes. So you're going to see, if you look on their website, for example, you're going to see like a larger building that has apartment style condos in a larger building. That's not where these affordable units are. They're townhomes, so they would have their own entrance, and there's going to be 6 of them. So if any of you familiar with the Reading area, it's about 20 minutes from Boston. This location is close to routes 93 and 95, and it's a quiet setting. All of these townhomes have 2 bedrooms, 1 full bathroom, as well as a half bath on the first floor. They have owners will have access to 2 outdoor surface parking spots, and each unit has a full unfinished basement. We've been told that yards vary in size. They're not fenced in, but each does have a yard. And the townhome affordable sales prices are $281,400. So these prices are significantly below what market rate homes are selling for in the community. From what I saw online, it looks like some townhomes are going, market rate townhomes are going for north of $700,000. And the monthly HOA fee for these affordable units is $334 a month, and that covers master insurance and regular maintenance of common areas and shared facilities. And then as you move towards purchasing one of the homes, you'll have a much more of a description of what the homeowner's fee is going towards. So you'll have a look at that. Will fencing, just a question here. Hold on one second, there's a few questions. Will we be allowed to tour the homes before October 4th? So good question. I was going to get to that, but I'll answer it now. So the answer for anyone who is not already been approved by SCB Housing and is part of the lottery is no. But if you have already been approved by SCB Housing, we do have contact information for the seller, and they are able to make an appointment for you to see the property. All of the affordable homes are not going to be available even if you do make an appointment. So you'd be seeing either where the home is going to be or a model home. But basically the answer is if you are approved by SCB Housing for the lottery, we will be able to put you in touch with the sales team so you can get a tour of a home. If you are not approved for the lottery, they won't be showing. They're not going to open it up to the public, for example. I guess that's what I'm saying. Okay, another question here. Are the lenders limited for getting a mortgage pre-approval? For example, is it okay to get a pre-approval from a general bank like Bank of America? So I'm going to actually talk specifically about Bank of America a little bit later on. You are free to go with whatever bank you would like, but part of what I'm going to mention is specifically Bank of America. We haven't seen households that are looking to buy affordable units have any luck with Bank of America as their mortgage lender. It could be just that their products are not meant for these affordable houses, this affordable housing program, but in general, you are able to go with any bank you should choose. Again, I'll mention this again about Bank of America later on. Will fencing in the yards be allowed by the HOA? So that's going to be a question for them further down the line. It's possible, from what I've heard, even just with other communities, is that sometimes the municipality has some language in their bylaws about fencing in general. So, like, you can't fence the front yard for aesthetic purposes and things like that. So I don't have an answer for you in terms of will you be able to potentially fence in the back, but that is something that you could ask further down the line. Is the plan site already available? I've reached out to SCB before in order to get information on the dimensions of the units for rooms, backyard, basement, but this information hadn't been provided by the builder. Yes, so that information came into us yesterday, and I don't have the dimensions of the backyard, but I do have a floor plan to share showing each of the affordable units. So I can provide that to you. If you can just send an email, I see your name here, but if you could send an email to info@scbhousing.com, we'll make sure to get that over to you. As I mentioned, they said that the backyards are, they vary in size and they're not fenced. So it would be kind of difficult, I think, for them to give you an exact dimension on it. But just keep that in mind. Yep, annual taxes I'm going to get to. Actually, you know what? I have that coming up right here. So the tax rate for Reading, I did out the math here, and with the tax rate, by the way, is based on the affordable price, not what the market rate price might be. So for these units, the taxes would be right below $3,300 a year. So it came out, my math came out as $3,293 a year estimated. That's the annual tax given the current tax rate for the town. Are applicants' IRAs counted towards your asset limits? So any assets that you have, you will need to provide verification of. So yes, it will be the pre-tax amounts, I believe. It says the max you can make, but is there a minimum you need to make? No. There is no minimum income for this ownership opportunities, but you would need to qualify for the pre-approval, the mortgage pre-approval. So just keep that in mind. Guaranteed rate. Oh, hold on. Down payment required. I'm going to get to all that. So I'm going to get to all of that. Could you co-sign? No, co-signers are not permitted. Can I have a roommate who lives with me? Yep, you can put down, whoever you plan on having on your in your household composition, you want to include that person on your application. Their income would be included as well. Okay, good question here. It says there are 3 available units. There's actually 6. One is available in the fall and the others in the summer is this lottery for all units. So this lottery is for all the units, yes. So 2 of these townhomes are expected to be ready for occupancy this fall, soon after the lottery, and the four remaining homes will be ready between the spring and the summer of 2025. That's what we've been told by the sales team. So I'm going to get back to the points that I had here, but I appreciate all the questions. These are all great questions. Some of them that are going to be that I'm going to go over in just a minute here, and some that seem to be recurring themes in terms of what people are looking to have ahead of time before they apply for an ownership opportunity. Okay, so since these homes are going to be sold at affordable prices, they're only going to be made available, like I said, to households with incomes at or below 80% of the area median income. And those area median incomes are released annually by the Department of Housing and Urban Development, so HUD. And Reading falls within the Metro Boston area. And so those are the AMIs that we're using for this opportunity. So as affordable homes, there's going to be what I mentioned, a deed rider filed along with the deed to this property at the time of purchase. So that deed rider in part just ensures that the home is going to remain an affordable home in the future, even if the original owner decides to eventually sell the property. So a couple points that are going to be in the deed rider, just to give you an overview of it. So the deed rider limits the amount for which you can eventually resell the property. So if you're looking for an opportunity to buy, flip, sell a home, this isn't going to be an opportunity for you. It doesn't mean you wouldn't be able to eventually sell the home for more than what you paid for it. But it's just going to need to be resold in the future to another affordable buyer. So you might have some return on investment, but you may not see the same appreciation as a home would see if it was market rate. There is a formula for a resale price, just for future reference, at the back of the information packet. That formula is also based on area median income. Another point that you'll see in the deed rider, so it must be your this affordable home is going to need to be your primary residence. So generally you couldn't purchase it just to rent it out as an investment property, like an Airbnb or something like that. And then also in the deed rider, it's going to make mention of if you would like to refinance or make capital improvements, such as a new roof or something like that in the future. The state agency, the monitoring agency for this affordable housing program is the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities. And that agency would need to approve your capital improvement. You just need to be in touch with them if you were going to do something like that. But these are going to be brand new homes built this year. So those types of improvements likely would not be on your radar for many years. And when you're obtaining your mortgage pre-approval from the bank, which again is required to come in with this lottery application, we suggest you review the information packet that I mentioned is available on our website. We say that we mentioned that you should maybe even just copy or rip out page 8 of the information packet. I'm going to scroll down to it so you can see it. The mortgage pre-approval standards that are here, and we basically ask households to bring that to the bank. The mortgage lender is going to want to take a look at that and confirm that they're what the standards are for this opportunity. We don't want, the mortgage product to not be what you need, and if it needs to meet up with the standards of the affordable housing program. We also suggest that you bring the sample deed rider, which is in the website listing, since the information in there could potentially be problematic for some of the loans. Certain loans won't accept all the terms of a deed rider. For example, the loan that you get needs to have a fixed interest rate throughout the term of the mortgage. It also can't be an FHA or a VA loan, since those types of loans don't accept the deed rider restriction. So you don't want to be in a situation where the lender grants you that pre-approval not knowing what the stipulations are for the affordable housing program. And then later on in the process, when you need to go back and get a mortgage commitment from them, they're not able to grant that. So just make sure that all of the information is given to the bank at the time of your mortgage pre-approval. And along those lines, we always suggest that, again, you can go to any bank you would like to be able to get this mortgage pre-approval, but we do suggest that you go with someone who has affordable housing experience. And as I mentioned about Bank of America, we just want to always mention that in our experience, it's been difficult, if not impossible, for applicants to successfully close with a Bank of America as their lender. So we recommend that you don't use them for your pre-approval or mortgage, since their mortgage products may just not be suited for these affordable programs. But like I said, you can go to any bank you want. We just strongly recommend that you choose someone who has experience with affordable housing programs. And again, on the information packet, you'll also notice on page 10, I know this is kind of, oh, sorry, not on page 10, on page 8, same page I was just on, we have this this hyperlink in the middle of the page there, and that is that's going to direct you to Mass Housing Partnership's website. So their site is a great resource for you to find lenders that are familiar with the affordable housing programs. So there's a lot of banks listed there and a lot of employees of those banks listed that are familiar with affordable housing. So the mortgage pre-approval standards state that you must provide a down payment of at least 3% of the purchase price, half of which, so 1.5%, must come from your own funds. So your mortgage can be up to 97% of the purchase price, and just 1.5% needs to be from your own funds. You might have, some sort of a loan or a program that's assisting with the other 1.5. So the down payment total is 3%. I'm going to pause there just because I know I have some questions that have come in. So let's take a look here. Do we need to recertify with, nope. So the question here is, do we need to recertify with SEB yearly? No. If you're eligible for the to purchase the affordable home at the time of the lottery, and after we've done all of our verifications of your income, and the state has done the verifications of your income, you purchase the property, you move in, you never need to show that you qualify again. Next year you could get a new job that would mean that you wouldn't otherwise have qualified for this lottery if you had that job right now, but you already own the affordable home, so that's that, which is great. You don't need to do any annual income checks or anything like that every year with anyone, including other than SEB housing. When you sell the property, though, like I said, it needs to be sold to another affordable buyer. So it's a different process in terms of the sale, because you would need to be in touch with the state when and if that occurs. Can you choose either you want to move in the fall or spring or summer? Yeah, you would work that out when you're reserving one of the homes. If you get to that point in the process and you're in the position to be reserving one of these townhomes, you would be working with the sales team. If you're interested, maybe in one of the homes that's not going to be available until spring or summer, sure, that can be the home that you are reserving. Maybe you just like the location of it better than the ones that are going to be available in the fall. Yes, you would have that. You would have that opportunity. Would you ever at any point sell at a loss? That's a good question. I don't know if I have an inkling about this, but I'm not 100% sure. So I will get back to you on that. If you could email us, info@sebhousing.com. I don't know if the state would permit an affordable homeowner to need to sell at a loss if the market, had gone way down, and the resale price was lower than what you paid. So I do not know off the top of my head, but if you email us, I will have that information for you by tomorrow. Can first-time home buyers apply? Yes, of course. And I'll talk about a little bit more about that in a few moments. I noticed on the website that a washer and dryer are not included. Is it possible to install a washer and dryer? Yeah, so there's a laundry closet. It just doesn't come with the actual appliances, the washer and dryer. If you find a lower rate down the road, can you refinance? So that can happen, but you would need to involve the state, I believe. So that would be something that you just need to involve the state with to refinance later on. Will a mortgage pre-qualification suffice for the unit available in spring, summer? Yes, good question though, because you're being pre-approved now. Before you close on the home, you do still need to be eligible for the affordable housing program though. So if you reserve in one of these homes in November, for example, before you close, both SCB Housing and the monitoring agency at the state are going to need to confirm that your household is still eligible for the program. So as long as you still remain eligible at that time, you'll be all set. All right, I'm just going to get back to a few other things. So the eligibility requirements for the affordable housing program, these are listed in the information packet as well. Someone just asked about this. Can first-time home buyers qualify? And actually the first eligibility requirement is that everyone in the household needs to qualify as a first-time home buyer. There are exceptions to that rule, which I'll discuss in a minute. But even if you qualify for one of those exceptions, you would still need to sell your current home prior to closing on an affordable home at Johnson Woods. I'll circle back to that in just a minute. The second eligibility requirement is that a household's income and assets must be below the maximum allowable income and asset limit. I'm going to scroll back or forward to show you what those are, which we'll circle back to in just a moment as well. Households have to be pre-approved for a mortgage, which we've already talked about, and households can't have financial interest in the development or be a related party. So the townhomes are being offered by a sales team. If you're in any way working for that sales team or related to them, you might not be eligible for this lottery. So to circle back on first-time home buyer, what does that mean? So all household members are considered first-time home buyers if they haven't, within the last 3 years, owned a home. So this includes through joint ownership. So if a household member was on the deed to a home along with your partner, your spouse, you were still considered an owner of that home. There are 5 exceptions to this first-time home buyer rule. They're listed in the information packet, but the 3 exceptions that come up the most often are the first being someone referred to as a displaced homemaker. So someone who hasn't worked outside the home for years because they've been caring for the home or children. That person was on the deed of a home with their partner or spouse, but they no longer own that home due to a recent legal separation or divorce. That person would need to already be off of the deed, but again, they could have owned a home within the last 3 years. The second exception to the first-time homebuyer rule is a single parent with at least joint custody of 1 or more children, or someone who's pregnant and is now being displaced due to a family breakup. So someone that's looking for a home because they are leaving their current situation. And then the third exception is an age-qualified household. So this applies to household members or households with a member who is over the age of 55, and that person is selling or has sold a home recently in order to purchase an affordable property. So if you qualify for any of those exceptions to the first-time home buyer rule, you do still need to sell that home before buying a home at Johnson Woods. So that might mean that your divorce would need to be finalized so that your name is no longer on the deed, for example. A couple questions came in, so I just want to scroll up here. If I qualified and lived there for a year or more, Then I have a friend move in later on. Does their income need to be listed? And would that disqualify me? If they're not moving in at the time of your purchase of the property, then no, you wouldn't list them. If they're moving in much later, no. Surface parking, please define as I see a personal garage. Yep, that picture is from the property. That is from the community, but those aren't the actual townhomes yet. Yep, thank you. It's a parking spot not covered in a garage. Site plan, hopefully will give us the answer. Regular townhomes in this subdivision have a single garage. Yep, so these do not have garages. Another question here. This came in, hold on a moment. So this is a general question. It came to me directly, but this might be useful for other people too. So if you're not sure if the income you're listing on your application is completely accurate, do the best you can. If you have questions on it, I would suggest emailing info@sebhousing.com, and the person who is working directly with screening applications for this lottery will have a suggestion for you in terms of what you should list. I know that some people have, they're self-employed and it's not as cut and dry in terms of what the number should be on there. So again, the lottery application deadline hasn't come up yet. So if you need to change anything, if you've already submitted an application and you think you need to change anything, that would be fine too. But yeah, my suggestion for you is to email info@sebhousing.com, and my colleague who is working on screening applications and who has more knowledge of what should be listed and what shouldn't be listed can help you out for sure. All right, so the maximum affordable income limits are on your screen right now. And those are everywhere. You'll see them on the application. You'll see them in the information packet. They're listed on our website listing. We just want to make it clear as to who might be eligible for this opportunity. So since these are affordable homes, as I mentioned, they're going to be made available at purchase prices that are lower than the market rate homes within the community and also within Reading in general. And so the income limits that are listed here, so maximum income limits, they are set by household size. So when you're figuring out your approximate household income, you're going to want to make sure that you're including everyone's household income when you're totaling everything up there. So if you're a one-person household, you could be eligible for this opportunity if you make under $91,200. If you're a two-person household, your total household income would need to be under $104,200 and so on. Again, you're not required to submit verification of your income when you're submitting your application or your mortgage pre-approval. But if you are found to be eligible based off of what you self-report, you will be provided, excuse me, a link or an attachment to a documentation requirements guide. Basically, it's an Excel document. It's a PDF that will come to an email that is a guide for you to give you some direction as to how many pay stubs we'll need from you, how many benefit statements, tax returns, and that sort of thing. Everyone will need to submit tax returns for the last 3 years for this opportunity. And depending on what your sources of income are, the income and asset information that you would need to submit to us might vary a little bit. So if you make the same, your paycheck is the same every week or biweekly, what we'll need from you to verify your income later on in this process will be different from someone who is self-employed and will need to submit expenses to us and all that sort of thing. Although we're not going to be gathering any of this income information from you yet, still want to give you a little bit of a basic overview of how your income will be calculated. So income for this program is counted as a projection of your income over the next 12 months for all household members. So this includes, bonuses, overtime, that sort of thing that you've made it over the last year. We're going to project that you will make that income going forward unless we have something definitive from, say, an employer letting us know that your income has changed. Maybe you switch jobs or you're no longer working a second job, that sort of thing. We do need to count gross income, so the amount that you make before taxes needs to be counted. Although most of us are not taking home the full amount of our salary, the program does dictate that we need to use that gross income. And as I mentioned, how we calculate your income is not one size fits all because everyone's income circumstances are unique. So some applicants are going to have that weekly salary that's consistent throughout the year, and some applicants are going to have self-employment wages or they're working seasonally. So in those circumstances, we might need to look further back into the past in order to project what your anticipated income will be for the next 12 months. And if you are self-employed, you're going to need to complete a profit and loss statement and provide supporting documentation. Your business expenses, if you are self-employed, will be taken into consideration. But anyone who's not self-employed, unfortunately, it is always going to be the gross income we count. So we wouldn't be able to take into consideration, medical expenses or insurance premiums, that sort of thing. So when you're filling out your application, just make sure that you're looking at all of the different income sources that are listed there. So not just wages, but if anyone in your household is receiving Social Security, child support, unemployment benefits, any of that sort of income, make sure that it is listed there. So I mentioned there's no minimum household income requirements for this opportunity, but in order to qualify for a mortgage, you're going to have to meet the lender's requirements. So the bank's requirements in order to receive that mortgage pre-approval. In terms of assets, so as you can see here and then in the information that you may have already read in the information packet, households may not have more than $75,000 in assets at the time of their application. And this includes any funds that you may have been gifted towards a future down payment, cash in your savings accounts, CDs, net value of stocks and retirement accounts, such as a 401k, money that's in Venmo or PayPal, all of that will be counted. We always want to mention too, because this is a little bit, it might seem like it's a little bit strange, but I mentioned the 401k or 403bs. So a lot of you may not be planning to access that money for quite a while, but the program does require us to count the net cash value of that. So because you could access it, I guess that's the reason that they still want it to be counted. But again, it's the post-penalty amount. So if you have a 401k and whoever is administering that, whatever financial institution is administering that 401k for you, they will be able to provide a letter to you to let you know what that post-penalty cash value will be. So that'll be further down the line for anyone who has some assets that we need to verify. Those are the types of things that you may need to get for us to confirm your eligibility for the program. We don't need information regarding personal assets such as jewelry or cars or anything like that. But if you have income that's being generated by these assets, such as your stocks and bonds and things, that is what we need to know about. All right, so I've got a couple questions here as well. Let's see. Good question here. This is a direct message. So my income by itself is below 91,200 and my assets are below 75,000, but added up, they're over the limit. Am I disqualified? Nope. So those are two separate things. The income limits are just for income. If some of your assets are generating income, we are going to need to count the generated income amount towards income. But most people's assets, for a savings account, for example, the interest rates are so horrible right now that most people aren't making a lot of money off of a savings account. So if your savings account is generating, $20 worth of interest per year, it's only the $20 that's going to be counted towards your income. But yeah, as long as your assets are below 75,000, you're good. We're not adding up the income and assets to get to the max income. if approved and the sales is finalized, but later you get married, do we have to submit another person's income? Nope. After you've bought the property, no one's going to be asking for income or asset information or household composition information or anything like that going forward. So you wouldn't have to worry about that. All right. So as mentioned earlier, if anyone, which we hope you're interested in this opportunity, we encourage everybody to apply as soon as possible to get the process started. Once your application comes into SEB Housing, we're going to contact you if anything is missing. And if you've been found eligible for the lottery, you'll be sent a lottery application number in the form of a series of numbers. That's just an anonymous identifier. It's not your position on the waiting list or anything like that. It's just meant to ensure that we don't have to call anyone's name during the lottery for privacy purposes. It corresponds with the order in which you were approved for the lottery, though. So if you were the very first person to submit your application for Johnson Woods and you were approved, your number is going to be A.001. On your application, you will have indicated your household type is what it's called. So either a type 1 or a type 2 household. All household types may apply for these 2-bedroom townhomes, but type 2 households are going to have priority for the home. So that means that all type 1 households, usually that means smaller households, households with not as many people living in them, are not going to have priority. So that would mean on the waiting list, type 2 households will have priority. So households with more than one person. And behind those type 2 households will be type 1 households. The exception to that is if you have a disability that requires you to need a second bedroom. You'd be considered a type 2 household in that case. There's additional details about household composition and household types in the information packet if you're not sure, and on the application itself as well, so you'll be able to indicate which one of those household types refers to your household. Just for your reference, though, all households with 3 or 4 members are considered type 2 households. Some some 2-person households are also considered type 2 households, such as a head of household with a dependent, and all of that. Okay, so the lottery application deadline, like I mentioned, is, the lottery itself is October 21st. So right after the lottery, we're going to create the waiting list, and top households will be invited to move forward and get in touch with SEB Housing on moving forward to reserve a unit and get the mortgage and buy the home. So the lottery itself will be the same format as this information session in that it will be a Zoom session. Depending on the number of applicants, the lottery application numbers will either be drawn from a box, held up to the screen, the meeting will be recorded, or they'll be sorted by a computer and screen shared so you can see the instantaneous lottery drawing. Every lottery number is going to be drawn during the lottery. Sometimes when you think of lotteries, you think, there's 6 units, they're just going to pull 6 numbers. That's not the way that this lottery will work, though, because the lottery itself is just held in order for us to establish the waiting lists for these homes. So the order of priority is established by the lottery process. So if you're watching on the night of the lottery, sometimes it's hard to tell where your placement actually is because the results haven't been sorted. We have to first, sort type 1, type 2, and all of that. The waiting list will be sent to you, though, either the night of the lottery or early the next morning. So you will know where you fall on the waiting list soon after the lottery itself. So if a type 1, just to give an example of that, if a type 1 household is drawn first in the lottery, they're not going to be first on a waiting list because they don't have priority for these 2-bedroom homes. So also households who were entered into the lottery might be found ineligible at a different point in the process. So either by SEB Housing, or maybe they just decide that they no longer want to purchase one of these homes. So again, if your number is drawn further on in the lottery, you shouldn't lose hope of being able to move forward in this process. You might still have the opportunity to move forward and purchase one of the homes, even if you're, like I said, number 7, 8, 9 on the waiting list. So when you're reviewing the email with the waiting list attached to it, I'm talking after the lottery is held a couple months from now. Once you're reviewing that email, you're going to find your lottery application number, so maybe your A.001, and you're going to see where you fall on the waiting list. At that point, you'll have a much better idea as to whether or not you're going to be moving forward to the next step in the process right away. If you are one of those top households on the waiting list, SEB Housing is then going to send you an invitation to move forward in the process. And that's when you'll be asked to provide all of your income, asset, and tax documentation that's required to confirm your eligibility for this opportunity. So hopefully by that point, you've had a chance to look at the documentation requirements guide and gather some of that information that we need from you. You'll have about a week to get it into us, but of course we'll work with you throughout the process. If you submit most of your information, but you need a couple more days to get more of it, as long as you're in touch with us, we'll be able to work with you on that. Once we receive your complete application package, we're going to review it. Like I said, respond to you within a few days. Most applicants don't submit 100% of the information, partially because it's a lot of information that you're going to need to submit to us, and also because sometimes we have further questions when we're reviewing your information. So maybe there's bank statements that we have questions on, and all of that. So don't be discouraged if you're going back and forth a few times with SEB Housing during the process. All right, so we've got a few questions here. Is a pre-qualification letter the same as a pre-approval letter? Probably. Some banks might just call it a pre-qualification letter. So does this mean that all 2 or more person households automatically go ahead of 1 person households in the waiting list, even if a 1 person household is pulled first? Correct. Yep. So you'll see more. The waiting list page on the information packet lists out the different, well, you know what? I can bring that up for you. And that's page 11 normally. Let's see. Well, page 14 in ours. So there's also local preference as well that I haven't mentioned yet. So if I'm looking at, this is the non-local preference for two of the townhomes. Type 2 households have the top priority. Type 1 households have second priority. In terms of the local preference for anyone living, working, or having kids go to public school in Reading, there's a little bit of an added benefit if you have a type 2 local preference household. So you can see in the information packet how it's broken out there. I think I have another question here, so just give me a moment. Would residents living in Reading, would residents living in Reading have preference? Yes. For 4 of the townhomes. So only for one of the waiting lists. For the other waiting list that doesn't have local preference, Reading residents will not have a priority. So we've broken it up a little bit there because not all townhomes can have that local preference priority. Can a realtor be involved in the transaction? If yes, how will compensation be provided? You can ask for advice if you need to with that. Usually we would suggest that you get an attorney involved later on in the process, once you have started the process of purchasing the home. So further down in the process, a realtor really wouldn't have much to do in this case, but an attorney is something that, this is a huge decision, obviously, for anybody purchasing a home. So we do suggest that you take a look at an attorney. This is sounding like a 1-person households don't have a chance here. Is that correct? No, not necessarily. So if you're a 1-person household and there's not a lot of interest or there's not a lot of households who qualify that are two-person households, you could still have a shot at purchasing one of the homes. If there's a lot of interest, then it's probably true that a one-person household would not make it through to purchasing one of the homes. It depends on a few things. All right, a couple other things here I wanted to mention. So after you have been found eligible by SEB Housing, so this is after the lottery, you're already one of the top households, you submitted all of that income information that we need. The next step in the process is for your file, all of your information to go to the state agency that oversees the affordable housing program. So that's, again, the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities. They were formerly referred to as DHCD. They're now EOHLC. They're going to do a file review and give us the green light that you're eligible to move forward in the process. And once the state has approved your application, the process becomes very similar to if you were purchasing a market rate home. And again, that is the point in the process where we encourage you to find an attorney if that is something that you would like to do in this at this point in the process. So you're basically have already been approved by SEB Housing. You've been approved by the state to purchase one of the homes. We understand that you might want to involve an attorney at that point. So once the state has approved your application, we're going to put you in touch with the developer of the unit to schedule a time to tour the homes if you haven't already done that, and to complete your reservation agreement. So in order to reserve the home, there is a refundable $500 deposit at that point. After you reserve the home, so you're choosing one of the 6 homes, maybe it's the homes that are available this fall, maybe it's one of the homes that isn't available until spring or summer next year. After you've reserved the home, you have about 10 business days to sign the purchase and sale agreement. So the P&S, and place your required deposit, which is going to be 1.5% of the sales price minus that $500 that you've already paid. Your purchase and sale agreement usually includes certain agreed upon contingencies and a closing date. That's one of the final processes, one of the final steps in the home buying process. So that 1.5% is put down at the purchase and sale, and then once you actually purchase the home, so at the date of closing, that's when the other 1.5% is due. Once that P&S is signed, you're going to need to go back to the lender who issued your mortgage pre-approval and obtain a mortgage commitment. So this process varies a little bit depending on your lender, but generally at the mortgage commitment meeting, they're going to want to see your purchase and sale agreement, the deed rider. They're going to do an appraisal on the home, even though it's new, and all of that. After that, SEB Housing is going to do a final review of your file. I mentioned that households must remain eligible for the affordable housing program up until the closing date. So about 3 to 4 weeks prior to your closing date, we're going to do that final review of your income, assets, and information. We may ask for updated pay stubs, bank statements, your mortgage commitment letter that you have just received. And again, we'll submit that final package over to the state for their final review. And if you've maintained eligibility, you're still eligible for the affordable housing program throughout the process, you can move towards closing. And once you've closed on the home, you can move in. There's no future income or asset eligibility reviews, which I know we've already touched on. But once you own the home, you don't need to prove that you maintain eligibility for the affordable housing program. So that about covers everything I wanted to get through that was in the information packet. Did anybody have any other questions? And again, for those of you who you had a question and I wasn't quite sure on, please email us at info@sebhousing.com. We will be able to have those questions answered for you. And again, you can find the lottery application on our website, which is sebhousing.com. You're going to see, if you click on I want to buy after clicking on affordable housing, there's going to be a Johnson Woods page that has the information packet, copy of the deed rider, and this lottery application. Yep, one question here, so I may have missed it, but what is the difference between the wait list? Is it just when they're available? Nope, so the waiting list, this opportunity, this lottery is for all six of the townhomes. The waiting lists are just, one waiting list is local preference and one does not. So if you're a local preference household, well, everyone is going to have a position on both of the waiting lists, whether or not you have local preference. But for these four townhomes, there will be local preference in that on that waiting list, and this one will not have local preference. So the program doesn't want residents of Reading to have priority for all of the units. A lottery can only have 70% of the units have local preference. Can the application be mailed? Yep. You can mail the application to, let's see if I have our address here. I think it's on the first page. Yep. 257 Hillside Ave. There's a drop box at our physical office location located to the left of the building. Do they allow dogs? Yes. I want to say they do. I believe the answer is yes. I'm going to leave it at that. Oh, can an application be mailed to you? Yes. So just email us at info@scbhousing.com and we'll be able to send one out to you. Sure. Will be listed on every waiting list or just the opportunity to be selected from one? Every approved household will have a position on both waiting lists. If you are, you're going to have a different position on both, though, so just keep that in mind. A couple other questions here. Yep, thank you guys for all in a yard space front or back. Yep, there is a yard. I don't have the dimensions of it, and it's not fenced in, but there is yard space in both. So there are 6 units, 4 of which have residency preference. Correct. Yep. But hey, that doesn't mean that there's going to be a lot of current residents of Reading that are applying. So there may not even be 4 residents of Reading that are type 2 households. So you never know. Definitely do not want to dissuade anyone from applying if they're not a resident. All right. If there's no other questions, I thank you again for all of your questions and for attending. And anything that was not covered tonight that you have questions on, or maybe that you think of later on, feel free to email us at info@scbhousing.com. Yep, so a question here, is SCB Housing actively promoting this opportunity or whoever finds it online? Yep, this has been marketed. There's a marketing plan that's required for all of these affordable housing opportunities. So it was sent to, through newspapers and town, lots of community contacts throughout town and things like that in different towns. Yep, thank you guys. I appreciate it. Have a good night.